because the moment I present the slide, I won't be able to see all of you. Can I have some response from the audience?
Yes, I can.
Right, thank you.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Now, today is going to be a sharing session. Um, when the organizer put the title steps, I would have to correct because there's no the right step in order to publish in a specific journal, because each and every journal have their own ways. Each and every journals have their own procedures that we have to abide to. Not one journal is alike. However, there are certain characteristics of the journal acceptance that follows in any type of journal that you are submitting with to. Okay, now I take it members of the audiences today would be, if not all, largely made up of people from social sciences students or scholars, isn't it? Um, because there are slight difference with regards to pure science or engineering students and social science. But based on the list that I've seen, all of you are from social sciences students, regardless you are in language, you are in sociology study, you are in communication studies, right? So what I'm going to do today is that I'm going to share some tips to structuring a journal writing for scholarly publication. Means that these are the metrics, these are the steps that, or these are the attributes that you have to have in your paper in order for you to increase your chance to be accepted into the journal publication. So first and foremost, welcome, right? And then later in the day, we will I've been told by the organizer that we will break into smaller groups, where I hope some of you, if not all, will be able to show me or to share with us your work in progress writing or any journal article that you have prepared, so that the breakout session can be more beneficial, not to me, but to all of you who attend this session, so that I can give you a live example and live explanation of what could be made or what could be further improved with regards to the actual writing that you are having with you. Right. Now, first and foremost, when we talk about writing, these are the common myths about writing. What we say this, isn't it? Number one, I need a beautiful view in order to write. You don't need that. Okay. Yes, beautiful view would eventually increase our mood, lift up our mood. And then I need a beautiful view, and of course a cup of Starbucks coffee would be an added advantage. The answer is yes and no. It's all a matter of perspective and how you set your mind when you want to write, isn't it? Even in a secluded room, some people can write very effectively. So it's a myth to say that you need to have a beautiful view, you need to get out from it all. You have to drive 5 hours to Bromo Mountain, for example, to see the beautiful landscape, to see the beautiful view in order for you to write or to produce a beautiful writing. It is not necessarily so. Another myth is that we always say that words come smoothly when I am in the mood to write. Sometimes to get the mood, this is where people fall into the idea that I'm having writer's block. I cannot write. Sometimes it's just a matter of mental perception. Okay, in order to write, you need to force yourself. Okay, especially if we are students, in the sense that you are master student, you are PhD student. How long are you going to wait for that mood to come for you to write? Your supervisor is not going to wait for you. The semester is not going to wait for you. If times is up, times is up, right? So you have to push yourself. Myth about writing, yeah. When you want to submit to a reputable journal, they have a window for you to submit. If you fail to meet that window, you have to wait for another cycle. Things can be even more challenging when you have KPIs, breathing down your neck, isn't it? KPI says that you have to have 2 journals, Scopus Index journal by end of the year, or by end of next year, but you keep on saying you are not in the mood to write. Okay. And another myth, there are many myths actually, but I'm just highlighting 3 here. Another myth is that I need to have a complete narrative because it is essential before I can even begin my writing. That is may not necessarily so, right? Sometimes you need to sit, stare, switch on your laptop, open up your word, start writing, regardless if it means that half pages along the way or 1 pages, 2, 3 pages along the way, you felt that these are all something that cannot be used. Still, it is the process, the thinking process that is translated into a form of writing. And always remember that things that you feel that is not important, you do not delete it. Okay, when I do my PhD, it's always I make it a training to myself that whatever that I write, if I feel it's not important or it cannot be used, doesn't mean that it will not be used entirely in its entire form. What I did was I would always save as, because if I may not use it in my thesis, I can use the writing that I have into my journal submission, for example. So always remember that don't ever delete. Instead, save as. Rename the file, put it aside, create a folder, like a folder and name it, for example, draft, so that you can refer back, so that this can be your guiding or your a lending hand when you are writing a journal, meaning that you it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily have to start from scratch. You already have the structure is just a matter of making, it's like a puzzle where you mix and match and then you reword and paraphrase it to suit the context of your writing. Okay, a complete narrative here also means that you need to have a storyboard, a good storyboard, in order for you to write. Not necessarily so. Okay, so that's a myth about writing that I need to highlight to all of you to remind. This is also basic tips of good writing or good writing. In any form of writing, this is the tips for good writing. Remember, in one paragraph, topic sentence is the key. Often when I review paper, when I review journal, I saw one long paragraph. When I read the paragraph, I am not able to understand what the paragraph is all about. Meaning that what's missing here is the topic sentence. A good paragraph sense must have a topic sentence. Okay. Now, how do you determine and how do you write your topic sentence, or how do you let the audience know or the readers know your topic sentence on that particular paragraph? Topic sentence is often at the first sentence of the paragraph, and it gives a bird eye view of the entire paragraph. What is it all about? Okay, you have one statement. Okay, followed by an explanation and followed by citation. That's how you write a journal in its form. And then it is very very important for you to have a topic sentence. Okay, remember that any good writing, any basic writing, topic sentence is the key. Okay, say and then remember the note that one idea in one paragraph. Do not have so many ideas in one paragraph. That is when you overwrite your paragraph, or that's when your paragraph become very bloated, and then it results in imbalanced paragraph in all of the structural essay or structural writing. Okay, say for example, one paragraph we have 10 lines, second paragraph we have 25 lines, third paragraph we have 5 lines. When as a reviewer, when I read, even not even reading your text, when I look at the structure of your paragraph, I would already know that there is something wrong to your writing, and you have not succinctly explained the important element in each of the paragraph that becomes the mechanics of the total writing. So remember, one idea in one paragraph, and often this idea would be visualized or materialized in the form of a topic sentence. Topic sentence is a statement of what the paragraph is all about. And then number 3, in any form of writing, yeah, you put aside essay, you put aside what call it, journal article writing. In any form of writing, right? Always use short sentence. What is a tips for a short sentence? Write in about 10 each. One short sentence is effective when you have 10 to 15 words, and that is enough, because it makes it easy for the reader to understand. Because if you have more than 10 to 15 words, you are actually required to create a clause. In the study of language, this is what we call clausal form. Closure form you need to separate by comma or splice, isn't it? Okay. So always use short sentence. If you can't help it to make it into 20 or 20 words, then you have to be very strategic. Because when you have 20 words in a sentence, it makes it difficult for the reader to understand your sentence. What more, the whole paragraph. If every sentence in the paragraph have 20 or 30 words, you know, there is something wrong with your sentence. Okay, which means that it requires editing, meaning that that particular long sentences can actually be broken into 2 or 3 sentences. Okay, short sentence means that 10 to 15 words is the most effective. When you have 20 words in a sentence, it shows that your sentence is difficult. When you have 30 words in a sentence, it is extremely or very difficult. Okay, you may understand because you are the writer, but remember you are writing for some other people. You're writing for specific purposes. And the key when we're writing for specific purposes, especially for journal writing, you have to make it easy for the reviewer, for the editor to understand you. This would essentially increase your chance to be accepted. Okay, and then once when we talk about sentence, we are talking about words now. Um, Different scholars have different what you call it, opinion. But in average, 4 to 6 characters in a word of each word in a sentence is enough. In one word, there should be 4 to 6 words. But obviously, in today's situation or in scientific writing, there are certain words that has more than 6 characters. If you can't help it, obviously, you have to get along with it. Okay. Okay, and then coming back to article writing, journal article writing, there are 3 things that you need to have as a scholar. Scholar, we are talking about as a person who works, who breathe and live for academic. Yeah. Number one, when you write, remember and ask yourself this: what is the contribution to the breadth and depth of language, to the manifest and latent of knowledge? Okay, manifest means that to the breadth, to the broad area of the knowledge, and that is to the how deep your knowledge is. Okay, the last thing you want when you prepare a journal article is that you're trying to reach or you're trying to achieve too many in a very limited space that the journal asks you to write. That would increase chance of rejection. When you go very deep, okay, but the editor or the reviewer do not understand, okay, to what end that you are trying to achieve the conclusion. Okay, you just get lost in your writing. So remember this. Number two, this is also important. Whatever that you write, you have to understand the requirement of the journal and what's in and what's out in that particular field of your study. Okay, you need to be very mindful of the latest development in the field that is relevant to your research area. The in thing now is the COVID-19. So whatever paper that when you write that has the word COVID-19, it will attract many interest from many reputable journals. Yeah, remember that. Like my example last year, I was able to publish in Q2 journal, okay, on COVID-19, the Malaysian people readiness and awareness, and how do they use the various media to increase or to improve their perceptions of the government handling. Okay, we were one of the pioneer that first started it. We did it very fast, and we were able to get around 4,800 respondents in Malaysia. Okay, many journals actually offered us to present our finding into the journals. Okay, so that's number two. Number three, there's no shortcut, yeah, when writing a journal. Before you even start touching that keyboard in front of you, read, read, and read. Okay, because the last thing you want is to be writing left and right to go around the bush of not knowing what is it all about. You need to understand the landscape of your paper. All right, so you need to read, read, and read, because in journal, the one of the criteria for the editor and the reviewer to accept your paper is they look at the recency of your literature. The only way for you to know what's in and what's not with regards to the research within the stack of your study is to go and read other people's writing. So read, read, and read. Remember that. As a student, this should become your mantra. Okay, you must read. Stephen King, yeah, Stephen King, one of the prolific writers, non-fiction writers, horror novel and whatnot, says this: if you don't have the time to read, you will not have the time and tools to write. Which is true. It's relative. It's very much related. Okay. In order for you to write effectively, in order for you to be able to expand your idea, in order for you to be able to have a very good discussion, it has to be, you know, the results of your thinking process. How do you contribute to the effectiveness of the thinking process is by reading. That's the only way where you will be able to critically analyze different opinion, okay, and use that different opinion to sum up your writing. Okay, remember this: if you don't have the time to read, you will not have the time and tools to write. Everything else is just an excuse. Being a student, you must read. Remember that. Fact, this is what I felt like when I first published my own paper. It's not even a Scopus Index. It's just published in a My Site journal in Malaysia. The first one way back in 2009 or 2008, 2007, I can't remember. Okay, the feeling is like winning a lottery. It's like you if you're an actor or an actress, it's like if you feels like you won an Oscar. Okay, when our paper is accepted for publication, especially what more when we're talking about journal with high impact factor. Even certain university they provide incentive if you are able to publish in high impact factor journal, because number one, it's very difficult. Number two, the time taken to publish in the journal also could be very long. Okay, and obviously you have to start somewhere. Remember that, yeah. You don't try to aim that high to go straight to Q1. If you have just started writing, try to publish in a small journal, or in a journal that has citation index, of course. Do not try to avoid sending your article, especially a research article, into a journal that doesn't have citation index, because it doesn't help with your visibility, especially if you are in academic. Because any journal that has citation index, it helps into the citation. When people cite you, because if it's in citation index, people can cite you. When people cite you, it will be recorded. Okay, then it will increase your citation index. That's how you achieve visibility in the academic life. And obviously, it will enhance and advance our academic career in that sense. If you are a lecturer, docent, yeah, it would allow us, that would be a very good score points for us to apply for, senior lecturer, associate professor, and professor and whatnot. Okay. Now, coming back to the title, as I said earlier, there is no secret ingredient to a successful publication. Hard work, yes. Okay. What we need is an excellent technical writing skills. Technical writing skill is not something that you go to any IT shop, you buy software, and then boom, that's it. You can write. No. Grammarly, for example, provide suggestions, but you still need to, even though you can agree with what Grammarly says, you need to look back at the context of your writing as well. It may not necessarily, the suggestion made by the system or the software may not necessarily fit into your discussion. So be very careful. Okay, what you need in order for us to publish successfully, number one, technical writing skill is very, very important. That's why most postgraduate studies now require students to attend professional writing class to help you master the skills of writing. And writing, even though you have a very good eye and a good sense of writing skills, if you do not write, it will go by the skills. Okay, it will become rustic. You need to continuously write. As a student of masters and PhD, continuity is very, very important. So does being a lecturer. Yeah, to explain our research to journal editors in a clear, crisp, and concise manner. How do you achieve that? Go back to the early slides that I say about when I talk about tips to good writing. Have a topic sentence, have a short sentence, and one effective paragraph. Okay, because it's a building blocks. Okay, writing um, is like a building block, and you are the architect of that effective writing. Okay, you build your case properly. Okay, normally when we talk about journal, we follow the precedence of how do you write a thesis. You start with your it first start with abstract, followed by introduction, literature review or discussion. Journal, they don't call it literature review, they call it discussion. Discussion is where you put in your literatures and the problem or the issues at hand with regards to your writing. And then thirdly, follows by what method do you use, okay? And then what are the findings? And finally, the discussions, way forward. Where are you suggesting this paper, the result of this paper can be taken or can be improved further, okay? In its entirety, that's how you write a journal paper. Okay, it actually follows the guide or the precedence of a good thesis. 5 chapters. It's just that when you write a journal, it is broken into smaller sections, no longer a chapter, right? Let us look at this. Writing is like an iceberg. Is what people see and what we actually see or experience. The final product is what people see. People clapping your hand. People say, give you a pat in the back. Congratulations. That's very good. That's very beautiful. That's a good piece of writing. What people see is a huge block of ice, and then white and fluffy and very beautiful to look at. Okay, iceberg. But what they see is just tip of the iceberg. The writing process and the real challenge, the one is that is in the bottom. You know iceberg, right? Iceberg, what you see on the top is actually just a small piece. The actual part is that the one beneath the water. That's the writing process. Okay, the real challenge. In order for in order for people to see the beautiful product, you have to go through this. Some of us claim and scream about writer's block. Some of us says that we have insufficient data, we have insufficient time, we have insufficient money. Yes, to do research, you need money, okay, for your field work, okay, for your token and whatnot. And then to publish in a good journal, also some journal they require you to pay certain amount of fee, and sometimes it's not cheap. Okay, you have to go through a few rounds of revision after revision after revision. Okay, my experience with JMIR Q1 journal, it traumatized us, you know. Why? Because we have to go through two revision, and the editor is Eisenberg. Eisenberg is the guru in health communication, my research area in health communication. So little did we know, when we sent the journal to JMIR, Journal of Medical Internet Research, it was Eisenberg. He was the chief editor, and he himself edited and reviewed our paper. He was the final reviewer. So what happened was, he posed 16 questions of the article that we sent them. And our article is not that long, yeah? Our article is just about 5 pages. And that 16 pages is as if we are writing one thick article. And then he asked a very, as a scholars, try to avoid using the word difficult, because the moment you use these negative words, it actually absorb into your mind and create this mental block. He poses challenging question. Okay, so later in my slide, I'll talk about the importance for us to collaborate. Luckily, we have a team to write this paper, so we tackle each of the question that he posed. Okay, revision and then rejection. Rejection is also something that is bitter for us to swallow, but we have to accept the reality in journal submission process. You will experience rejection more than acceptance sometimes. Okay, my latest paper this year went through two revision process, and it was finally rejected. Reason being, the area or the scope of our research is not in line with the theme of the journal. So we were like, well, you should have told us much earlier before when we first submit, but that's the reality, rejection. But do not fret and do not be discouraged by it. Rejection is almost normal. Okay? Smile, plot your next step. Okay? Lack of experiences. And you have to start somewhere, isn't it? Like you guys, when if you're doing masters, you're doing PhD, start slow, prepare, submit. Prepare, submit. You may not have a real research yet. What you can do is prepare a conceptual paper that talks about the theoretical framework of your research. You can prepare a systematic review process paper. Okay, that is also a research in itself. Okay, systematic review is a process, is a chapter 2 process in your writing, where you review all of the journals that you have collected and write for chapter 2. Okay, systemize it, make it in the form of a table and whatnot, and then present it, submit for a journal article. It is also accepted. Okay, there are so many things when talk about challenge. The list goes on and on and on. We can always give excuse, right? The bottom line is do not be discouraged. Okay, because if you look at the picture of this iceberg here, okay, the challenge is the chunk of challenge is much bigger than the final product itself. Okay, what people see is beautiful, but we are in a very dark and murky area and murky place when we first start off in order for people to see our final product. Okay, so it's always what people see and what we see, but never be discouraged. Yes. Okay, so this is what I intend to cover today. There are 9 things or nine area that you need to be mindful at when you want to prepare for a journal article or submission to a journal Okay, number 1, title. Number 2, visual. Number 3, content. Number 4, abstract. Writing, productivity, collaboration, terms and conditions, and lastly, comment and respond. Okay, let's move on. Number 1, you need to have a strong title. That's very important. In order for you to be selected, especially a reputable journal, because on daily basis they receive massive submission. Okay, and they will start editing by looking at the title. So if your title is strong enough, okay, it would make it to the second round for them to read the abstract. Okay, if your abstract is very strong, then only they'll look at the content. Okay, so it's very important because this is the mechanics of selection processes. Okay, same goes when you apply for grant, like in Malaysia. In the case of Malaysia, we have this what we call FRGS, Fundamental Research Grant Scheme. It's very much the steps of sending for a journal. You prepare your proposal. Now, one of the tips that was given to us was that because all universities in Malaysia, we have about 44 public universities and hundreds of private universities, the one that has been licensed by Malaysia government, are eligible to send. Take for example, if one university sends 500 proposals, because one university makes up with how many faculty? 20 faculties, and each faculty has how many staff members? If each and every member submit that FRGS proposal, we are talking about a massive piles of proposals. Okay, one of the selection process is that the first one that they'll do is that they look at the title. Okay, whether the title is strong enough, whether the title really answer or give them the view of what the whole proposal is about. Okay, so you need to have a strong title. Remember one. Okay, your title must be clear and obviously straight to the point. It should embody these 3 things. Okay, number 1, it gives information about your research. You use the terminology, the right terminology, catchy terms or terminology that relates to your study, and inform the reader of the discovery, meaning that you tell them what is the method that you use. Okay, what are the expected outcome of that study? Your title must be clear and concise, straight to the point. Okay, and never ever underestimate the power of title. Like in the case of you doing your PhD and masters, right? You may have a work in progress title. What you have at the moment is your working in progress title, because once you complete your thesis or your dissertation, before you submit for examination of that paper of that thesis, okay, your supervisor may want to you may want to change your whole title again to give a better reflection of what you have written. Okay, like in my case, I went through how many times? 6 to 7 times a change of title for my PhD studies. Okay, that's how many. The first one guide me and help me to prepare the table of contents, and I move on as I go about. I change here and there. My proposal depends. I change the title again, okay, and then towards the end before I submit for examination, I make it final to reflect the whole thing. So remember, your title is very important. When you first start writing, do not stick to that title. Say that this is the title. I don't want to change anymore. No, okay. You may want to change here and there so that it gives better reflection. Now, the small blocks of title, yeah, because title is not that long, yeah. Okay, often becoming the decision-making criteria. As I said earlier, when I give you the example of when you submit a grant, the reviewer, the editors, they receive so many titles, so many articles at a given day. So it's very, very important that you have a title that attract their attention. Okay, how do you attract their attention? Again, coming back to the first point, there are three things that they're looking at. Your title must give the information. Your title must use the right terminology, the right language and the right words, and then your title must direct the reviewer or the editor into knowing what is the method and what is the expected outcome. Okay, because at the end of the day, your title should compel whoever that read your paper to come near your paper. Okay, and pick that up, click that open button to see the whole thing. Okay, this is like a like fishing. You bait them with your title. Okay. Again, as I said, with just a few words, your title must highlight purpose of your study, which can often include context, outcomes, important aspect of the research strategy that you have adopted. Okay. Remember, a lot of us make mistake. That's fine. That's a learning process. Do not be discouraged by it. Yeah, relax. Okay. A poorly constructed title can also mislead the reader. This is why I say into thinking the study is about something that it is not and confusing them from the start. The last thing you want, you give them title A when they read is about something else, or it doesn't really jive in or go well with the actual title. That's why I said, you at the beginning of your writing process, you may have a title to guide you, but once you completed your writing, review back your title so that it gives a better reflection. Okay, at the very last minute, you can also make changes to your title. So don't worry. Even when I send a paper for conference, for example, when I first send in abstract, this is my title. During presentation, before presentation, I inform the organizer this is the final title that I use for my proceedings, for example. Okay, because for conference, when you submit a paper, okay, you just give them an abstract. You may not have begun writing yet for the proceedings, isn't it? But as the time comes, when you have that 1 month, you prepare the whole paper, sometimes changes happen. So this is fine. It is okay. Do not ever think that the organizer would get mad or scream at you. No, they won't. You just inform that I'm making changes to my title. This is the final one to better suit the final product of my research of my presentation. Right? As I said, a good title or titles should be descriptive in nature. Okay, describe. Okay, your title must describe because this is a scientific paper, right? And explain. Your titles can never be general or generic. Generic is too common. Okay, and then your title must be precise and it has to be internally consistent. Internally consistent means that the content should reflect the title, or the title should reflect the content. It has to have consistency. Okay, let us look at some of the example here. The one that I highlighted in yellow is the characteristics that a good title should have. Okay, the actual title for number one is Barriers to Internet Adoption, a qualitative study among corporate customers in Thailand. Okay, if you are to deconstruct your title, barriers would be the focus of your study. You're looking at barriers, okay, and then internet banking adoption is the area of interest. Okay, there are so many barriers to banking adoption. What you're looking at is the internet banking adoption, so that makes it the area of interest in your study. Okay, and then you have a qualitative study among corporate customers in Thailand. The word qualitative study is very clearly said, so that becomes the research design of your paper. If I am the editor, I know, okay, this is a qualitative study right away. Okay, I'm going to send to a reviewer who's good in qualitative study. Okay, among corporate customer, so this is where your population or your sampling are. Okay, in Thailand, this is the situated nature of the study, where the study is going to be at. Okay, that's very clear. Or another example would be problems with partnership at work. Lesson from an Irish case study. Again, very clear. Problem would be the focus. You're looking at problem or issues. With partnership is the area of interest. Partnership is the interest because working condition or working environment is big. So you narrow down to one part, one area, which is you're looking at challenges surrounding partnership at the working environment. At work would be your population, where your study is going to be at, situated nature of your study. And lessons would be your proposed outcome. From an Irish case study, Irish means that the nature of the study, you're looking at Ireland and the Irish people only. And case study directly says the methodology. Okay, so if you look at this, when you deconstruct your title, you have to make sure that your title have focus. Your title must have area of interest. It gives a description, or it provide the reader to know who the population or the sampling of your study is, what is the proposed outcome, and the method that you use. Another example would be if you are using quantitative, you use the word correlation. When I see the word correlation in the title, I would already know that this would be quantitative in nature. Okay, this is some of the some example of strong title. This is actually a real document, yeah. Healthcare personal perspective on potential electronic health intervention to prevent hospitalization for older person receiving community care. Qualitative study. This is a title, a very good title, and it was taken from a JMIR Q1 paper. Let me click, and then it should allow us to go into this. Can you see this? When I click, hi guys. Hi
Yes.
guys. Thank you. So this is one of the example of the title. Okay. Another one. Relationship between COVID-19 information sources and attitude in battling the pandemic among the Malaysian public. Cross-sectional survey study. Also from JMIR. Okay, this is my paper anyway. All right. Okay. So this is the paper. This is the title. Okay, hold on. And then another one would be social determinants of COVID-19, a partisanship, health behavior, and policy directives in the early stages of COVID-19 pandemic. Another example. What I'm showing you is that I'm showing you all of the latest journal. Yeah, most journal nowadays they really have they highlights on COVID-19. Some journal they have this what we call fast track edition. Like PLOS One, for example, they have a fast track edition. This means that if you submit journal article that has to do with COVID-19, you will be put on express lane. Means that the review process will be very, very fast. It can be published less than 3 months actually. Okay. This one has just been published in April 7, 2021. Okay. So you have to look at that and leverage on that, especially if you are chasing, because some universities, in order for you to graduate, you have to publish a Q1 Scopus Index paper, for example, and then you are like 6 months to graduation and you haven't published a paper. So find a journal that provide fast track service. Okay, fast track service, it can be number one, issues related. Number two, you have to pay extra lah in that sense. Okay, but in the case of COVID-19, quite a number of journal, reputable journal, they have fast track whenever you have a COVID-19 issue. Why? Because most of the journal, they work very closely with World Health Organization, WHO. So the input from the researchers are actually, when it is published, it will be sent directly to feed the WHO on the current issues and the current findings to help WHO to battle the pandemic itself from various angles. Okay, so don't ever think that I'm a social science, I have nothing to do with COVID-19. I have nothing to do with pandemic. You have everything to do with the COVID-19 that you can contribute. You are scholars, you must contribute. Okay, so this is one of the example. And then we have another one, social determinants of COVID-19 incidents and outcome, a rapid review. When you see a rapid review, you already know this is a review process only. Okay, and then they do it systematically, and then they come up with a table. See, there's the figures and whatnot. We look into this later. Right. So these are some examples of strong title. Okay, very clear. You use the right terminology. Okay, you have the element of focus, research design, sampling or population, area of interest, and it has to be reflects because for example, when I read student thesis or student's dissertation, when I look at the title in chapter 2, what comes into my mind is that the student must be able to deconstruct the title, because your title is the window to your dissertation. Same goes to your journal article. Your title is the window to your writing. So you have to make sure that it is clear. You see, I took quite some time to explain about what you call it, title. Number two, this is quite what you call it, abstract in the sense of explaining it. You have to be strategic, okay, in the use of figures and tables. Looks simple, but this is very, very important. Figures and tables. It is essential to a good paper. Remember, they are the heart and soul of your article. Regardless, you do quantitative, you do qualitative, or you do mixed method, you have to have table to explain. Even though you do what we call it qualitative study, you do in-depth interview, there is an element of table or representation that it can be translated or uh, can be changed into a form of table and figures. Do that, because if you do qualitative, you can use Atlas T or you can use NVivo, isn't it? And when you do the abstraction process, they can come up with the software can come up with a form of table abstraction processes. Use that to tell them how many number of what you call it themes that you are able to extract from the themes, what are the codes, and put it in a form of table so that people will be able to see it. Why? Because tables and figures, okay, are the visual elements. Okay, visual elements is very important because it direct the eye of the editor and the reviewers to capture the important data set, okay, before they even began to understand the subsequent narrative, your paragraph. Okay, they look at the table, they interpret the table, then they read the explanation, isn't it? That's what we always do. Even if you are not editor or reviewer, that's what we always do, isn't it? When you read, you open up newspaper, you see table, you see a huge article with a very small font, you don't read it first. Your eyes will go into the table, you read the table, you understand the table, interpret the table, then you read the explanation. to check whether the table makes sense or not to the explanation. It's a visual element and it's very, very crucial in your writing. Remember that. Table and figures, okay, it's like the highway for us to communicate a large amount of complicated and complex information that can even confuse people when you write in a paragraph. So it helps people to comprehend and to get the information, to extract the information a lot faster. Okay? And as I said earlier, our eyes will go straight to the table of figures, okay? To understand what your paragraph is about. Okay? Figures that you use, tables that you use visually represent your findings and must be logically ordered and correspond to the history. Means that whatever that you say, remember some journal format, you have to do the explanation first, give table. Some journal format, they ask you to put table, then explanation comes later. Read carefully. Okay? Do not simply write just because this is how you've been writing. So therefore you want to just bulldoze everything. No. Follow the journal instruction. Sometimes the rejection comes in the form of, the writer do not follow the journal's procedure or journal schemes. So be very careful. You can also give a diagram, models. Okay, you want to talk about theoretical framework, you give them diagram or you give them models. Okay, then you explain. Okay, it is ideal for presenting data plots, images, schematics, and even maps, depending on the area of study you're doing. Okay, moving on. Content. I don't think I can stress it strong enough. A good paper must be robust and solve significant problem. Okay, especially if you want to submit to a reputable journal or high impact factor journal. The problem that you pose and the solution that you presented must be significant enough for them to take in and value your input. Okay, it has to be robust, means that it has to be able to touch a significant number of audiences or population. Okay, it should be provide that effects. Now, high impact journal, okay, they look at this. Okay, what your paper has got to offer them in terms of latest and relevant literature works. Okay, you cite people 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they will reject right away because literature are out. Okay, you need to use at least the 5 recent years. In today's situation, some journal they move up to 3 recent years only. Okay, that narrow down, that makes you, what you call it, push you to be more motivated to go and search for a very high quality journal. Okay, and then another one is that your paper solve a significant problem or offer a solution to a significant problem, okay, that benefit both application of the study in the area of study as well as fundamental elements in the research area. If you look at the title earlier, okay, here it solve, it provides solution, it gives some paper like the relationship between here a cross sectional survey study, it doesn't solve any problem. COVID will still be there because this is a paper that talks about attitude and survey. Okay, but it provides solution to WHO or to the authority on how to better approach. Okay, and when it is published on time while during the crisis still happening, that would become even more useful because cross-sectional survey study that we did, for example, we used 4,850 respondents. That is huge. Okay, represent more than what Craigie and Morgan suggested, 384 corresponds or respondents. So it gives that impact. Okay, so that's why. Remember, even though you have the best story, best narrative, the best perfect English, strong narration in your paper, okay, but it will be futile if your content is not strong and significant to the area of study. You have nothing to offer, okay, or the problem that you're posing is not that serious, okay. Remember, don't ever say, sir or doctor, I'm doing literature, therefore it's not serious. No, there is a journal There are journals who achieve Q1, Q2, Q3 in the area of literature, for example. But the key is to see. One of the keywords that, say for example, if I want to publish in Q1 journal, I look at the Q1 journal. No harm for you to go to the website, download few articles and look how it is written. Mimic, follow how it is written. Don't copy paste, obviously it's plagiarism, isn't it? But look at how the language style and the language used, the type of sentences that they use. Okay, follow along the line. That would surely increase because you speak to the language of the journal itself. Remember, every journal has different way. Each journal has their own unique way. Okay, and remember, when you talk about content, you are not solving the world's problem in one paper. The key here is to focus and concentrate on the niche, on the area that you're doing, and do not go astray and try to write everything. Remember, because I understand this, I was once a student like you guys. Okay, my supervisor always scream at me, try to strangle me because I try to solve everything. I try to do a lot of things in one thesis. The key thing is to edit. Okay, one of the way is once you have prepared your paper, to make sure that people understand the content of your paper, you do this. Okay, among your peer, among your friend, describe your paper using 3 minutes elevator pitch. Okay, when we talk about elevator pitch, meaning that we are using layman term, yeah. Then check whether the listener able to grasp your paper in its entirety or not. Will they be able to understand it or not? And number two, do a quick review with co-author or your co-authors, okay, as well as non-academic. Okay, non-academic means that people who's not from the same area of study of with you, to test the understanding of the content. Does it scientifically correct? Soundly clear on the problem that your paper put forth? Will they be able to understand the issue at hand and the findings that you have presented? Okay, one of the way. Okay, this can be made into exercise. Once you prepare your paper, try to explain it in your own way. Will people understand or not? If people don't understand, then you ask it, maybe you need to take a step back and revise your paper. Okay. Number four, write a clear abstract. Okay. Again, abstract should be written once your paper is completed. Okay, but of course, if you're sending for a conference, you have to first start writing an abstract to tell the organizer how your paper is about. But writing for a journal, okay, means that when you want to send a journal paper article, meaning that you would already have your article in front of you, right? So abstract should be written after your paper has been completed. Okay, even though it comes out after your title, but abstract is the last thing you do. Okay, you prepare your paper first, complete your paper first. Okay, number four, let us look at write a clear abstract. What does it mean? You see, abstract normally it requires between 250 to 300 words only. However, if you look point number one, abstract contains a lot of things, isn't it? As if you're writing the whole paper again, right? The abstract is the summary of your paper. It should briefly, see I put on capital the word briefly, contains overview, issues, objective, methodology, findings, and conclusion. Okay, meaning that all of these points here, it has to be reflected, but it should not be written in details. Okay, it should provide necessary information that talks about your research area and what are the problems in that area. That's the first 2 or 3 lines that people are looking at when they read your abstract. The opening sentences, okay, is the second most crucial part of your paper. Once you present them with the issues, then you tell them the objective. What is your paper addressing? Okay. Once you tell them what the objective, then you, in 1 sentence or 2 sentences, you give the summary of the findings, generic discussions on the recommendation resulting from the research. Okay, when we talk about 250 to 300 words, if you use font Calibri for size 11, we are talking about between 15 to 20 lines, if I'm not mistaken. No, should be lesser. Okay, and then if you break it into sentences, overview should cover one or two sentences. Issue should be one sentence, one defining statement. Objective, one sentence. Methodology, you may want to break into two sentences. Findings, maybe another two, and then one conclusion or two sentences for conclusion. So overall, we are talking about between 9 to 12, 9 to 12 sentences for a summary. Okay, so if you have 15 words, 15, 10, 12, there you have it. Okay, am I correct? 15, 10, 12. Let me see. I also might be wrong. Hold on. 180. So should be more. Okay. So if you write about between 15 sentence, one sentence, you have 15. 15 times 15, 225. So we're talking about 15 times maybe 30. 15 times 25. Okay. 15 times 20. Okay, hold on, yeah. Okay, about 20 words. 20 sentences. 15 words times 20 sentences, you would have 300 words. Okay? So between 20, around 20 sentences. Okay? Normally in a journal, they would request you to write an abstract between 250 to 350 words. Some journal they go to as high as 350 words. And then some journal require you to write a keyword. Okay, and normally the number of keywords that are required between 5 to 6 keywords. What are the keywords? What are the words, important terms or words that you use frequently in your findings? Say for example, your research is about internet usage and whatnot, social media, that's a keyword. Number two, your population or your sampling would be those aged between 15 to 25. Then we're talking about young people, young adults or teenagers. Okay, and then you are having it in Malaysia, then it's Malaysia. And then you're looking your focus would be on the attitude and behavior. So you write attitude, behavior. Okay, some of the example. Now the key in writing abstract is that the balancing act without giving too much information, because your abstract serve again like the title is serve a window, so your abstract is like a door, okay, slightly bigger, okay, but doesn't give too much detail. Why? Because of the insufficient words that you are allowed to write in. Okay, now to avoid confusion with the final article, abstract is written once the article is completed. Okay, and your title and abstract have nothing in common. You must state them separately, meaning that title is a title up there. Abstract is an abstract. It comes after. If you look at any format for any journal, it's very clear. You start with the title, and then authorships, and then abstract. Okay? And below abstract, some article, they have keywords. So you write keywords down there. Number 5, write. Write, write, and write. Again, I cannot stress more than that. Write succinctly, concisely, clearly, and obviously, very, very calmly. Relax. No one is chasing you except the time. Okay? So write is important. It's almost normal for writer, whether you are science students or non-science student, uh, uh, they confuse with first language with their writing skills. The mother tongue often gets in our way, right? We are all use English as a second language. I'm using Malay language, you guys are using Indonesian language, and some of us have our local dialect as well. So sometimes we are confused. It's very, very basic. It's very common. So even the native English speaking also understand of the challenges that the non-native speakers are having. Why? Because we think in our mother tongue. When we think in our mother tongue, but we write in English, often gets the explanation and often the expression will be very much different. But whatever it is, through training, through extensive or what you call it, exposure, you should be able to write. Okay. Now, for effective writing, as a scholar, we must be able to communicate ideas clearly. So this takes us back to the earlier slide when I say, remember, write small sentences in order to describe something. If you write longer, this is where you get confused with the way you express things, right? So you have to learn the basic of writing and communicating proficiently. Remember, you can be number one, the best debater in the world. You can be the champion. But if you fail to communicate your skill or the knowledge that you have, it will not take you anywhere. You may be the award-winning student because you score in your exam very well. You are number one in Indonesia, for example. But when people ask you to write a paper about it, you can't. If the people ask you to come forward and talk about it, if you can't speak about it, it will not take you anywhere. You cannot be sharing that information, right? So you have to have a good skill of writing. Now, characteristic of a good writing, again, these 3 points summarize the earlier points that I gave you. It has to be short, concise. Succinct means that concise, very straight to the point. That's why you don't write long sentences, 20 or 30 words. You write 15 to 20 words only. 10 to 15 words only, because once it's short, it becomes concise. If you have further explanation, put a full stop, write some more, right? And it has to be unambiguous, means that there is a clarity in your sentence. Use the right and appropriate language or words to express certain ideas. Remember that. Sentence structure, again, the keyword here is sentence structure. It should be neither too short nor too long. Okay, I'm not going to explain more because I think I talked a lot about it. Again, when talk about writing, it emphasizes on the concept of one idea, one paragraph. Remember paragraph structure? Okay, start with the topic sentence, explanations, citation. Topic sentence, explanation, citation. Okay, or topic sentence, citations, then your explanation. It can be either way, but topic sentence should be the first one at every paragraph. Now, when writing, we can often get very what you call it, blinded or uh, blindsided or unaware of our own mistakes, because sometimes when you to engulf into your writing and your paper, we fail to see any error anymore. Therefore, get second pair of eyes to review whether the word and sentence is worthwhile and make sense or not. Prepare it, send to your friend and get them to check. Make them second author or third author. Help them out. Help them help you, isn't it? It may surprise by the number of unnecessary words that add nothing to the sentence's meaning. The revision is very important. Revision doesn't mean that you write once, you send to the editor and wait for the reviewer to give you the revision. No. Revision starts even before you submit to the journal. That's very important, so that it doesn't look or reflect very unnecessarily negative on you. You don't want the journal editor says this is very stupid because so many spelling error, so many fragments, so many grammatical error. You don't want that. Get people to be the second pair of eyes. If your English is not good, for example, because all of us, remember, I'm not saying that my English is good. All of us are having problem with English. If you have to send for editing, send for editing. If you have to pay, then pay. Because it's worthwhile when you publish a very complete paper that has very minimal grammatical error. Okay, because reviewer, they don't want to look at the what's called it stupid error. What we in common sense we call it stupid mistake, isn't it? Grammatical, when you submit to them, in their mind is that your English is okay now, your grammar is at 99% okay now, or 100% foolproof. What they would be interested in the content and the contribution of the knowledge itself. Okay, spelling mistakes, grammatical error, what's called it, formatting issues. This should not happening. Okay, This should not be happening when you submit the final product to the journal, especially the reputable one.